BaseballTalkRadio.com presents MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week show. Opening day and night is upon us, and plenty of stories along with our picks, all on this show of MLB This Week. And hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week podcast, talking all about baseball with our picks, and opening day all of a sudden upon us, Gary.
Yes, sir, Rich, and what a great day it is, opening day, and we've got the sun shining here, and of course the Mets are opening in Kansas City. I hope the weather's nice there, but they'll be on ESPN tonight, and right now the Pirates and the Cardinals are playing. And baseball's here for 2016, Rich.
Yes, it is. And tonight was supposed to be opening night for baseball, but as you said, the Pirates and the Cardinals just about to wrap up soon. Last time I checked, the Pirates were winning that game. But yeah, some people are saying opening day, some people are saying opening night, but whatever the case, we have baseball today playing on the field, and it's for real.
Yes, sir. I call it opening day, and let the chips fall where they may.
That's it. Just as long as we have baseball, that's the most important thing. And tomorrow they want everybody to wear caps. So if you're listening to the podcast tonight, we're recording this on April 3rd, Sunday afternoon. If you're listening before Monday morning, wear your caps. Maybe not to work, but MLB's trying to push it. It's opening day. We got to let people know we're baseball fans. It's a fun idea, I think. That's one of their better ideas to come down the pike.
Caps on, Rich, and I'm getting a little jump on it here by having mine on today. But, yeah, it's a good idea, and everybody should wear their true colors. I know Friday the Mets sent us all emails and wanted it to be blue and orange Friday, and of course I showed up at work with my blue and orange on. So it's great for baseball to have these little tie-ins and to see how many people really pay any attention to it. So caps on. They've been running commercials and everything else, so we'll see how it works out.
That's for sure. And opening day is such a special day. It's almost like a holiday. People were tweeting out Happy New Year, happy opening day. People just can't wait to watch baseball. And as you said, the Mets and the Royals will take the stage tonight at 8:30 p.m. in the East. And it's going to be an interesting rematch there, Gary, don't you think?
It certainly will be. And it's going to be late. It's going to be a late game because, you know, they got to have the flag raising ceremonies and all of that because the Mets are there. But it's going to be a great matchup. Matt Harvey going tonight for the good guys, and Volquez going for the Royals this evening. So we'll see how it plays out. Of course, there was some talk about some retaliation in Game 2 because Noah Syndergaard will be pitching Game 2, and he did knock down Escobar in the first pitch of the World Series, Game 3, I think it was. So there was some talk about retribution. But look, they got their retribution. They won the World Series. Let bygones be bygones, and let's get going. Let's play this year. Don't think they'll meet again, but you never know. And but this is the regular season, and everything starts anew.
That's for sure. I agree with you 100%. I think they should let the old season lie where it is. Don't pick up this tit for tat type of mentality. Brand new year. That season's over and done. I think they should forget about it. But as you said, all eyes will be on the game tonight. Interesting way they started off with this. I believe I read somewhere where it's the first time that there's a World Series rematch on the first day of the season. So it's very interesting there where they paired up the Mets and the Royals here to start off 2016 for us.
Yeah, and kind of strange that the schedules were made out in advance, so it was just fortunate, or whatever you want to call it, that it worked out that way. That the Mets and Royals were scheduled to play, and they ended up playing in the World Series, and um, it should be interesting. And of course, it was originally set up for Monday night to start the season, but ESPN and the greediness of television had the game move to Sunday Night Baseball, so they could get the World Series rematch on there. So it'll be interesting and it'll be fun. And like we've been saying, the main thing is that baseball's back now, and now for the most part, we're going to have something to watch every night or pretty close to it, and for the next 6 months or so. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's been a long 6 month layoff for baseball, and it's hard to believe there's that much lag in between the season starting, even though it seems like it's extending so far. It's just such a long winter that really now it kind of feels like spring, especially in our neighborhood, our neck of the woods. I was checking out the weather in other locations where some of the games are going to be played. And in fact, in Pittsburgh this morning, it was in the mid 30s, high to mid 30s, and then it warmed up a little bit, but still a little chilly on the field for a lot of these teams. And I'm sure we'll have some interesting weather in Denver and places like that as the season starts up, even still.
Yeah, I still don't understand why they don't figure out a way to start some of these teams either in a dome stadium or in a warmer weather. Like Colorado should be starting in Atlanta or Miami or something, instead of just if indeed they are starting at home. I'm not sure where they're opening up then, Colorado, but it's something that I think they should really look into. Now that Minnesota has an outdoor stadium, that's something else that they've got to consider, the weather. And of course, the famous incident of 2 years ago, I think it was now, was the Mets playing a series in Minnesota and getting snowed out a game there, and then flying out to Denver and having a snow game out there. Actually, members of the team were out there shoveling snow to get in the game in the second day. So, not the best of weather for those climbs at this early part of the season.
That's for sure. So we'll have to keep our eyes open this first week or so, 10 days into April. Changeable weather always around. But you have our first story up here, play ball, a letter from the commissioner.
Yes, Rich. If you get the emails from MLB.com, today the commissioner of baseball sent out a letter, and basically what it is, he was saying hello to the fans for the season and telling how excited he is for the upcoming season to come. That they've played games in Australia over the last few years, Panama, Mexico, and Cuba. And he talks about the rematch, talks about some of the ideas that are coming back. And one of our stories that you have, I believe, is about the new technology that they're going to be using and allowing in the dugout this year, and the pace of play and how they're going to work on that and to get that way. So it's sort of like a State of the Union address from the commissioner's office to the fans. And of course, at the end, he says, let's play ball, and signs the letter. So I thought it was something interesting that he put out, as I say, more or less like a State of the Union address on the state of baseball. And that came out today from the commissioner as we start this new 2016 season.
Very cool. And I'm so glad that they did start here in the U.S. It's nice to bring the game to other places, but it's really our game. So I'm so glad that they decided to have the opener here rather than some odd time of the day from overseas when it gets beamed to us, because most of the time you can't watch the games that happen overseas. So interesting that the commish should go out and welcome in the season like that. And as you said, Gary, technology keeps improving. And this year, as well, with the MLB, they'll be having some new apparatus in the dugouts with them. And we both shared this story this week. The all MLB teams will have 12.9-inch iPad Pros in every big league dugout this year to help coaching staffs make real-time decisions during games. So I think baseball is trying to embrace technology a little bit more and more every day and every year for that matter. And also, I know you're a big fan of Apple products, Gary. Siri has been updated. It's been updated with all the records of baseball. So now it knows both the history and the stats of all pro, minor league, and international league games. So you can ask Siri a question anywhere from how many wins did, say, Harvey have last year to how many RBI Cespedes had, if that's what you want to know.
And is that for everybody they upgraded Siri?
Yeah, apparently Siri has been updated with all kinds of baseball records from Apple. So it's ready to go, according to them. Some of the questions that were asked of it already at cnet.com, where I found the story, how many strikeouts did Cy Young winning pitcher Steve Carlton had? And the response from Siri was Steve Carlton had 4,136 strikeouts during his career, which is absolutely right. Carlton had a 24-year career. He ended up 4th all-time in strikeouts. So give it a try, you Apple fans out there. Siri is updated, and most of the time it'll answer questions, of course. Somebody asked it whether the Cubs would finally win the World Series this season and end a 107-year drought. Siri had no response to that.
We can test it, Rich. We can do it right now if you'd like.
Sure, I'm all for it if we can get the audio.
Steve Carlton question?
Sure.
Siri, how many wins did Steve Carlton have in his career?
Let's take a look at Steve Carlton. Steve Carlton had 329 wins during his career.
And there it is, Rich.
329 wins for Steve Carlton. Wow, that's pretty cool. So, listeners of the podcast, you heard it right here. Siri is updated and ready for the 2016 baseball season.
Yet another toy for us to play with, Rich.
Yes, indeed. And how about those iPad Pros making their appearances in all the dugouts? Going to keep it a little easier for the gang to keep track of certain players. I'm sure they'll have customized software on them and apps and things like that to help them make better, quicker decisions in the dugout, if that's possible. But technology coming into baseball this year.
Yeah, Rich, they're going to have a custom app called MLB Dugout, and it's going to help the managers see performance statistics, check videos from earlier games, and analyze how pitchers and hitters are likely to perform against each other. It doesn't say anything about Twitter or Facebook, though, Rich. So I don't know if it's going to have everything on it. But it's interesting, and Apple signed a big deal, and it's kind of reminiscent to the deal that Microsoft has with the NFL. You know, you see them at all of the football games now on the sidelines with these Microsoft Surface tablets, and this is a similar thing. and except it is an option, so not everybody has to use it. But they'll every team will get their own personalized data preloaded onto the tablets before each game. So they used to have all this kind of thing banned, but now they're embracing it and have it in the dugout.
Yes, indeed. What a great time it is for baseball, for technology. It's only a matter of time before these things get their way into the dugout. Pen and paper will still be used, I'm sure, by a lot of the managers, but coaches and things like that could probably make great use of this. Pitching coaches is what I'm thinking, maybe the best. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with this down the road, and certainly this season.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting concept to see how they use it, as you say, and how it pays off for them. Some of them like to keep the old notebooks and the loose leaf binders. I remember guys used to have tons of that, but this is similar to that, just modernized.
Yes, indeed. And I guess it won't be long until they have Bluetooth microphones on the uniforms and things like that to keep track of, talk to the coaches, maybe. You never know.
Sewed right in.
Build it right into the uniform, they would.
You bring up an interesting point, though, because, they have the helmet earpieces in football. In lieu of being that they're putting a timing on this, on pitching coaches and stuff going out, in lieu of that, perhaps they'll someday give some sort of earpiece to a pitcher so they can communicate with the bench. I don't know if it would break any rules or anything. I don't see any problem with it. It probably could be turned on and off at will, because I don't think you'd want it on all the time. It would be very distracting, but it's a concept that maybe perhaps they should even investigate.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the next wave of technology gets into the game here over time. And Gary, one of the stories that made the news this past week, of course, we remember that Al Jazeera report that made the rounds, naming players such as Peyton Manning, Ryan Howard, and a few others. Of course, that story seemed to have faded from the scene in the last couple of weeks. We haven't heard much about it other than the main person that was involved in the report of reporting it has taken it all back, so to speak, quote unquote. But this past week, a free agent baseball catcher by the name of Taylor Teagarden received an 80-game suspension from Major League Baseball based upon his recording that Al Jazeera secretly made that he admitted using performance-enhancing drugs. So he was one of the athletes that was mentioned in that report, but he's the only one that was caught on tape actually admitting it. So MLB taking the move there, and it doesn't actually say that they suspended him for that statement that was recorded, but he's been suspended for 80 games for Major League Baseball for violating the substance abuse policy.
Taylor Teagarden, journeyman catcher, had a cup of coffee with the Mets, I believe the Cubs and a number of other teams. Just a shame, but you do what you when you're on the bad borderline like he is. He probably felt he had to do something to try to get to the big leagues, and he got caught, I guess. I mean, we really don't know whether he got caught taking it or failed the drug test, or if it's because this other incident with Al Jazeera, but not much to say.
Yeah. It's specific in the report when it was announced in the press. It did say that it did not mention a failed drug test, with the MLB not mentioning that. They referred instead to a quote-unquote violation of the sports drug prevention and treatment program. So very interesting to see if more will come out about this claim. It certainly sort of adds some teeth to that original Al Jazeera report in some sense. We'll have to see if this takes on a new life down the road somewhere.
Definitely, definitely.
So never a dull moment in the world of sports with baseball and performance-enhancing drugs anymore. But we have another kind of a not so shady story, but the Rangers picked up somebody that can throw 100 miles per hour.
Yeah, Rich. Matt Bush was the first round pick of the 2014 draft by the San Diego Padres. He was drafted ahead of Jason Verlander and Philip Humber, who retired this past week. He was a shortstop at one point, but his career was a bust. His life off the field was even worse. He had a series of arrests that ended with he hit a motorcyclist in 2012, and while he was driving drunk, he served 39 months of a 51-month sentence. And Royce Silver, a member of the Rangers minor league staff, had a relationship with Bush dating back to the DUI. And of course, Royce Silver, for those that don't know, has a history of working with addicts, including Josh Hamilton. While in prison, Matt Bush had a job at a local restaurant. Silva would visit occasionally and advise the Texas Rangers brass that he believed Bush was viable physically and mentally for a comeback. After he completed his jail sentence last fall, Bush, who in his previous minor league incarnation had transitioned from a shortstop to a pitcher, was brought to Arlington and pressed Texas executives with his velocity and also with his willingness to talk about his problems and about his problem past. The Rangers set lifestyle guidelines within a minor league contract for him. So Bush, now 30 years old, has hit 100 miles per hour in games. He's still working on refining a breaking pitch. His father, Danny, has been with him during a low-key spring and will be at Double-A Fresno, where the righty has been assigned. And there is some speculation that there is a chance that we could see him in the major leagues sometime this season. So Texas giving a second chance to a guy, and maybe it'll pay off for them. They're always looking for pitching, and this guy would fit in nice with Cole Hamels and those guys in Texas.
Yeah, and you would think he had the opportunity to have a second chance with all those missteps that he's made. But kudos to Texas and kudos to the MLB for allowing him to try to get a career on path, cleaning his life up and leading a better life, so to speak. And good luck to Matt Bush, and hopefully he'll walk a straight line for the rest of his life, especially when he's with the MLB.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So we'll keep an eye on him for you on the show. And I know our picks are coming up soon, and everybody can't wait to hear our picks. But I want to let you know where you can find our podcast. Of course, you can find us on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher Radio. You can check out our website. It's MLBThisWeek.com. And we're also on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel with a video version of the show. And you can check us out at baseballtalkradio.com as well, the home for great baseball talk. Of course, this week is a good week to go check it out. A lot of the new shows on there talking all about the new season. Plenty of baseball talk, more than you could probably listen to in one sitting. But you can also follow our show on Twitter at MLBThisWeek. We do tweet out some things during the week, and especially when we do our shows live, you can check us out. And I'll invite you all over to the patreon.com site for MLB This Week. It's patreon.com/MLB This Week. That's a place where you can go ahead and make a donation or two on a monthly or a per show basis. Small donation, that is, maybe a cup of coffee a month. So Gary and I can maybe get some new baseball caps that you want to see us wear on the program or something like that, a new microphone, or maybe even a new host for our podcast. So please stop by there, patreon.com. You can sponsor the podcast, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, go there, check it out today, because we can use the support. And Rich, they also can listen to the show if they miss it for whatever reason on Monday nights at 5 o'clock, I believe it is, on xtrtalkradio.com. So check that out as well, or just listen to it so we get good ratings on the radio side.
Yeah, really. www.xtrtalkradio.com. I believe it's Monday night at 6 p.m. in the East. 6 p.m. is when you can listen to our show. And Gary Mack actually has his Mets Musing show on Friday nights at 8 p.m. there at WXTRtalkradio.com. So if you're surfing around the internet, want to listen to some good online radio, and they have a bunch of other shows there as well, on tech and things, and some other podcasts about the hockey and things like that. So check it out, xtrtalkradio.com.
And you know, Rich, there's no excuse not to listen to us, because we're everywhere.
Yes, we are. We're like flies flying around, and you can listen to us at various places on the internet, as well as iTunes, of course, one of our biggest places. We appreciate you if you subscribe at iTunes and leave us your comments. If you like the show, maybe you don't like the show, you have an improvement to suggest to us, we look forward to hear your comments right there on the iTunes website. And Gary, moving on with this show, as we near closer to our picks here, you've got a quick story here on the Venezuelan Summer League being a thing of the past.
Yeah, with a dwindling number of teams, Rich, and a lot of domestic situations that are very volatile. The Venezuela, the Minor League Baseball Association said that the VSL, the Venezuelan Summer League, would be shuttered for the 2016 season. The news came on the heels of the Cubs announcement that they intended to pull out of the league this summer. The circuit was down to just 4 teams a year ago. The VSL debuted in 1997 as a stepping stone into the minors for baseball-crazy Venezuela's youngest and best talent. While the league's inaugural season wasn't even 2 decades ago, it was a world away from Venezuela's current status on the international stage. It had probably its best years during the 2000s, the early, but by 2012 it was down to 4 teams: the Mariners, Phillies, Rays, and Tigers. And just too much turmoil and crime and recession and everything else. People are barely getting by there and can't afford to really take care of baseball, and of course the violence that has come out of that country, and it's touched the baseball community in many ways. If you remember back to September 24th, the September of 2004, I should say, Tigers reliever Yugi Urbina's mother was kidnapped, held for a $6 million ransom before being rescued by an anti-kidnapping unit. And then in 2011, the Washington Nationals catcher Wilson Ramos was abducted in front of his mother's home and held for 2 days before being rescued. And just last month, the Kansas City Royals catcher Salvador Perez spoke out against the violence on his Instagram account after his mother was a victim of armed robbery and carjacking in Valencia, Venezuela. So it's not a good scene there. It's a very country in turmoil, and a lot of violence and a lot of problems. And teams are just pulling out. They're not going to risk their talent or future talents allowing them to play down there. So that league is gone.
Yeah, it's a league that I remember hearing quite a bit about, being a Phillies fan. I have a blog, fightingphillies.com. always hear about the Venezuelan league with the younger Phillies players. They constantly used to go over to that league, especially in the off season, things like that. But yeah, as you said, Gary, I think it's more of a safety issue now, and since oil has dropped in price and things like that, the country's been having tremendous difficulties. So yeah, it's a shame to see that go, but hopefully one day they'll be able to build it back. It's sort of their link to the Western world, so to speak, and a good place for a lot of those Venezuelan players to jump over to the major leagues. They get noticed there pretty well, but sad to see that go.
It's always sad to see a league go somewhere in the world that, especially we're in a country that has a tradition of baseball craziness, but the times are not good, and there's a lot of explosions in the world, and this is just one of the volatile areas.
That's for sure. So farewell for now to the Venezuelan League. We'll have to see if that can get new legs over there. And Gary, another story here, Jason Verlander giving up a home run to somebody he knows very well.
Well, yeah, he used to threaten his younger brother, Ben, about what he would do if they ever faced each other. And I've always told him my whole life I'm going to hit him, Justin Verlander joked. Instead, it was the other way around, with the younger Verlander getting Big Brother for a home run in Thursday in a minor league game. And Verlander did not expect their meeting to happen. When he walked across the street to the backfields of Tigertown, he was simply getting his work in during a minor league game in his final tune-up for opening day. Ben Verlander, a 2013 draft pick who spent last year at Class A Advanced Lakeland, was supposed to be playing in another field. With 4 fields next to each other, however, it's not difficult for players to jump from one game to another, and Ben Verlander jumped across and came up swinging, hitting an opposite field homer. When he came up there, I knew exactly what he was doing, Justin Verlander said. If I was pitching in a real situation, I'd probably just throw him a heater down and away right here. If that's a different situation, it's probably a different pitch. I had a lot of situations like that today. So Verlander lasted 5 innings in that game, got a little bit of a tune-up, but his brother took him deep.
That's an amazing story there. I know brothers go back and forth usually with just about everything. Embarrassing moment there a little bit for the pitcher Verlander, but sure they had a good laugh about it afterwards.
I'm sure they did, Rich.
Well, wrapping up the first game here, the first official game of the season, Pittsburgh looks like they're going to cruise to a 4-0 victory over the St. Louis Cardinals there. It's in the top of the 9th, barring a big comeback by the Cards. But the second game of the season has just pitched off down there in Tampa, down at the Trop. The Toronto Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays are playing baseball down in Florida right now.
Wow, it's exciting to be checking the scores and all of that. It's great to be back.
Yes, it is. And of course, tonight, the rematch with the Mets and the Kansas City Royals. I think that obviously is the marquee matchup of today. We'll get the most watching on ESPN. As you said, Sunday Night Baseball. It's good to hear that back. I'm not always a fan of Sunday Night Baseball during the season, but I will be tonight. I think they play the Yankees a lot on Sunday Night Baseball.
I think they play the Yankees too much on Sunday Night Baseball.
They play them out on Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah, that's why it's nice to have the Metsies on there. I don't know. I guess if you probably did a study, it would be more split up. I would say, to me, it seems they have the Cardinals on an awful lot, but I don't know what the schedule is this year, so we'll have to see.
Yep, we'll keep our eye on that schedule as we move towards the 8:30 opening game there for the World Series rematch, so to speak. I'm looking at some of the live blog comments they have over at fangraphs.com here as we're doing the podcast, Gary. Some comments about the ESPN strike, or the K zone, they call it. They're talking back and forth about whether or not you like that box on the ESPN broadcast. I kind of like that. How about you?
It's okay. It sometimes can be a little distracting when you just want to watch the game and not be filled with all kinds of stats or locations and that sort of thing. But I mean, it has its purpose, and I think I'd like to see it off and on more.
Yeah, and that is one of those things that we were talking about last season, whether or not someday down the road they would get an automatic strike zone with balls and strikes, just keeping track of them with a camera like that, as we talked about probably about 8 months ago. They did it in minor league ball, where they did have an umpire there, but they also had a camera calling the balls and strikes. So interesting to see how that develops over the season. And that just about leads us up to our picks for 2016, something I've been looking forward to all week. Gary, how about you?
I'm all excited, Rich. I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, why don't you kick us off with your National League picks?
Well, I'm going with the National League East, Rich. There's only one team to me to pick, and that's the National League champions, the 2015 National League champions, East, the New York Mets. I think they're going to take care of the Washington Nationals. I think it's going to be a close race, but I think the Mets are going to come out on top with that pennant, pennant history now, and with that pitching staff. I think the Nationals fall a couple of games short. The Marlins will be in the race and fall out, I believe. Unfortunately, Rich, I don't think the Phillies and the Braves. I think the Phillies will be improved, but the Braves, I think, will probably finish last. I think the Phillies will come in next to last and will not be challenging this year for the title. Do you want me to go on, or do you want to take the NL East now?
I'll give you my pick on the NL East. I'm going to agree with you. The Mets, obviously, the cream of the crop this year. They've got starting pitching. They have their offense retained. I see the Mets going very far into the playoffs, as we'll be talking about later on in our picks. I see Washington making a nice improvement this year, probably finishing a second place. But I have the Phillies coming in third place, a tremendous improvement over last year. I just don't think the Marlins are going to excel under their new coach, Donnie Baseball, down there. I kind of think it's going to all implode down there in Miami by season's end. I have them finishing next to last, and then, of course, I have Atlanta trailing the field there in the NL East. So, yeah, I'll agree with you. The Mets, the class of the NL East this year.
It's interesting about the Marlins. I never really thought that it could implode there, and they do have some good pitching, but who knows? Anything could happen, right? All right, let's move to the National League Central, Rich. And, of course, this is the one that everybody's talking about now because it has the Cubs. And last year, of course, the Cardinals and the Pirates were right there. They fought it out all year with the Cardinals coming on top. I think it's going to be a little different this year. I think the Cubs will win the National League Central. I think the Pirates and Cardinals will be right there, but I think the Pirates are the second place team. Cardinals coming in a distant third, and then of course the Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds bringing up the rear, because I just think that the Cincinnati team is not a very good team whatsoever. I think they've got a lot of holes to fill. They're in a rebuilding mode, and I mean they do have a couple of good players, but I just think that their pitching staff is not very strong, and it's going to be between them and the Brewers. Let's put it that way for last place. The Brewers really have ripped their team apart and are in a complete rebuild. So they could end up in last place, but I think it's going to be close between them and Cincinnati.
I'll have to agree with you again. I do like the Cubbies in the NL Central. I think they're going to go far deeper into the playoffs this year. Followed up with the Pittsburgh Pirates, although I'm going to give them just this year to get something done. They've been on the bubble of getting good things done for the past few years, but those opportunities don't always present themselves every season, as we saw with that club you mentioned, Cincinnati. About 5 years ago, they were a powerhouse team. They had a lot of good players, but they couldn't get it done in the playoffs. And the Pittsburgh Pirates sort of remind me of them. They've been on the bubble of doing better things, finishing well the last couple seasons, but not being able to push themselves over that edge into the playoffs. St. Louis, I think they're going to end up in third place in that division. Always got a good team, but again, I think they've been firing away on all cylinders, but really have come up empty the last couple seasons as far as deep postseason success. And then the next couple teams, I don't even rank as far as how they'll do. As you said, the Brewers and Cincinnati will definitely trail the field this year there in the Central.
All right. Now we move to the West, Rich. And this is another toss-up one. There's a couple of teams I liked. But what it came down to for me was, to be honest, was the Giants and the Diamondbacks. Dodgers, I'm not all that impressed with. New manager, they've got Kershaw, but they lost Greinke, so they're going to lose a lot in the pitching area. Not impressed with their lineup that much, so I think the Dodgers finish into third place, drop to third. Colorado doesn't even matter in this race. And who am I missing out there?
You have the Padres.
Oh, Padres. Yeah, Padres too were in a rebuild, so they're not going to really be that much. So what I'm going to go with is the San Francisco Giants beating out the Diamondbacks solely because it's an even year, and we all know the Giants win their division and sometimes the World Championship in an even year. So I'm going to go with the Giants winning the NL West.
Very, very good there. I know a lot of people are picking the Giants to come up big this year, especially as you mentioned, it's an even year. I'm going to go with a surprise team, Arizona Diamondbacks, to take the division out there. I think Greinke's going to bring a renewed interest in the Diamondbacks, definitely add to some wins out there. And I think it's going to maybe possibly persuade a free agent or two to want to go to the Diamondbacks during this season. I think they're going to add another piece to the puzzle to solidify what they're starting out there in Diamondback land. As you said, the San Francisco Giants will be strong. In 2016, they have that core group still intact, Hunter Pence and all. I just don't see them winning the division, and I could be wrong about it, but I have them in second. The Dodgers, as you said, they're in a transition. They're still spending a ton of money, but they're not getting anything for it out there in LA. I have them finishing third. And then it's a toss-up between Colorado and the Padres. I really haven't done enough research, but I'd have to go San Diego, then Colorado out there in the NL West.
Okay, and my National League wild cards are the Cardinals and the Pirates. Again, the wild card coming from the Central, as they did last year, and I don't see that changing much.
Very cool. I have two teams that should have done well in the past couple years, but really didn't. The Nationals and the Giants. So I have a couple powerhouse teams as my wild card picks. We'll have to see if they do anything.
All right. Those interesting. Can't say that I argue a lot with them. Let's go to the AL East, Rich. This is a toss-up in this division. A lot of weak teams. Nobody really outstanding, but I'll tell you, the American League seems to be offense, and the Blue Jays certainly have the offense over in the American League.
Yes, indeed. I'll agree with you. I'll go with Toronto there. I kind of liked a little bit the Boston Red Sox to do a lot better this year. We'll have to see if something happens out there, but I'll agree with you with the Blue Jays to win the AL East.
Yeah, I don't see enough pitching with Boston, and I think the Blue Jays have enough pitching and such a dominant offense that I think they can get the job done. All right, we'll go to the AL Central, and Rich, I got a surprise pick here. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins. I'm going to give them the title. The Tigers are still shaky in the bullpen. The Royals, I don't like their pitching at all, and I know they got by last year with it, but they've been 2 years in a row now. Third year, it's kind of tough. People are going to be gunning for them. So I'm going to say that they finish second to the Twins, and Tigers coming in third, and Cleveland, great pitching staff. Don't know much whether they have a good enough offense to carry them. So I'm not really going to go with them. So I'm going to give it to the Minnesota Twins.
And that is a surprise pick. Very good. I'm going to stay with the Royals. I kind of think they found the success out there without spending a ton of money. Maybe it's their scouts, maybe it's their coaching, the management. They just seem to bring some good baseball players together that aren't necessarily household names. So, yeah, right now it doesn't seem like they have a ton of free agents that they brought in because they've really never been that type of a team. But, yeah, I'm going to go with the Royals for the repeat in the AL Central.
Okay, moving on to the AL West now, Rich. Of course, a couple of teams out there. The Rangers were last year's champions, and the Houston Astros was a wild card. I'm going to have a little different this year. I'm going to pick those Houston Astros as the AL West champions. I figure the Rangers to finish second, the Angels to be a distant third, and Oakland to bring up the rear in that division. Houston Astros, young, very solid team, decent pitching, and they've got the Cy Young Award winner who can do a lot, and some other good young pitchers because they got that fantastic kid at shortstop and Altuve at second. And I just like they made a couple of good moves over the offseason, and I'm going with the Houston Astros.
Very good. A lot of people have Texas picked out there. Of course, they picked up Cole Hamels. I went with the Houston Astros as well. I like their young attitude. As you said, Kuchel out there, can't stop him. Altuve, very good. I kind of wanted the Angels to do well also, but I think it's going to be Houston's AL West this year.
Okay, and our wild cards, I've got the Rangers as a wild card and the Royals as a wild card.
Very cool. And my wild cards, it's a little surprise here, the Boston Red Sox, and I'm going to pick the LA Angels. If they don't do anything this year, they should implode that team and trade Mike Trout over to the Phillies.
No, no, they should trade him to the Mets for Matt Harvey.
Well, that could be a possibility. You never know.
All right, Rich. So we're down to it now. Now it's our World Series picks, and I'm going to let you go first and pick your World Series contenders here.
Okay, well, I'm going with a kind of a surprise pick here. I'd probably make a lot of money if I was in Vegas with this pick, but I'm going for a rematch of last year's World Series. Somehow the odds will bring the New York Mets and the Kansas City Royals together again in a part two of the World Series for 2016 with a New York Mets championship. And I know that makes you happy, Gary.
I'm very happy here, Rich. I hope that you're correct. I've got it a little bit different, but I'm half agreeing with you. I've got the Mets versus those Houston Astros, and the winner is, well, that didn't play. The winner is the New York Mets win the 2016 World Championship.
All right, so we're very bullish on the Mets with our World Series pick. We hope you enjoyed our picks there for 2016 MLB picks, and that about wraps up our show for today here, MLB This Week. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, stop by iTunes, subscribe to us, and leave us a feedback, if you will.
And we'll see you all again next week as we actually have real games to talk about, Rich, and real standings and everything. It should be great.
Going to be fun.